Okay, I think we're live, so let's get started. Welcome to Be Lit. Yesterday we ended on the end of page 55 with this. False messiahs appeared in the midst of the confusion. The sentence before that, just to refresh your memory, there were various opinions as to who the Messiah would be and precisely how he would accomplish the overthrow of the Romans. Some thought it would involve violence, others thought it would come in more spiritual way. So today we turn the page and on to page 56. Vocabulary word for the day is diaspora. That's diaspora. So let's read on. I think we're ready. Okay. Let's see. Some false messiahs even led people out into the wilderness to wait there for God's decisive intervention, only to be slaughtered by the Romans. See Acts 5 and Acts 21 for reference. But the hope persisted. God would send his Messiah to save his people. The synagogue was also a unifying factor for the Jews, especially those Jews who did not live in Palestine. The scattered Jews, or diaspora as they were called, okay? So the diaspora is the scattered Jews, the ones that did not live in Palestine. Diaspora, FYI, this is me, not the text, is also associated with persecution by the Romans, causing the Jewish people to flee. So that's also a connotation of diaspora. Back to the textbook, though. But even in Palestine, there were numerous synagogues, at least one in every town. It's if some sources are to be believed. So one synagogue in every town, even in Palestine. Jerusalem is said to have had 394 synagogues or 480 synagogues with a synagogue in the temple itself. Okay, with a synagogue in the temple itself. So let's look at the references real quick. I already Googled them. So for the 394 number, this is not that important. This is getting into the weeds. It's not really that, important to study, but I guess I already Googled it, so I'm going to go ahead and read the reference. The reference to the 394 figure for the number of synagogues is Babylonian Talmud Ketubot 1, and I don't know if it's actually pronounced Ketubot, Ketub. I'm not exactly sure Ketub how to pronounce it, but it's the Babylonian Talmud 105a. So let's go ahead and flip over to 105a. And this is the reference for the 394 figure. It reads, this is the Babylonian Talmud. Were there, however, no more judges? Did not Rabbi Phineas, in fact, state on the authority of Rabbi Oshaya that there were 394 courts of law in Jerusalem and an equal number of synagogues, of houses of study, and of schools? Judges, there were many, but we were speaking of judges of civil law only. So that's just a small snippet of 105a. And the other reference for the figure of 480 synagogues in Jerusalem is from the Jerusalem Megillah 73d. And here's the quotation I will read. To the best of my ability, I found these. I'm sure there's more to be learned from them, and I probably am butchering pronunciations. But here's the snippet I believe the reference is referring to. There were 480 synagogues in Jerusalem, and each of them had its own school and seminary. A school, Bet Sefer, House of the Book, for the study of the written Torah, and a seminary, Bet Talmud, or House of Study, Bet Talmud, House of Study, for the study of the oral Torah. And Vespasian destroyed them all. Jerusalem Megillah 73d. That was a quotation. And let's continue on back to the book. That was just references, citations, but let's go back to the book now. So again, the book is making the point that there was a synagogue in every town, that Jerusalem itself is said to have had 394 or 480 in those two references that I just read, with a synagogue in the temple itself. The origins of the synagogue are lost in the midst of antiquity, but they apparently arose sometime during or after the Babylonian captivity. With so many Jews scattered over that part of the world, the synagogue became the center of Jewish life. By Jesus' day, it had four basic functions. It was primarily a school where the children were taught law and Jewish religious traditions. For some, such as the Jewish writer Philo of Alexandria, 20 BC to AD 45, this was the epitome of what it should be. It was also a place of worship where there was recitation of creeds, reading of scripture, homily, or exposition of scripture and prayers. The synagogue also functioned as a court where religious or civil questions were settled by the local council. Finally, the synagogue was a place of social interaction where funerals and special meetings took place, and even politics were discussed. We good? Okay. Oh, and see, for reference on that, see Josephus, Life 54. Josephus, Life 54. I didn't look up that reference. For the Christians in New Testament times, the synagogue served as the logical site to begin to preach the gospel. The gospel, of course, meaning the good news, right? Parentheses, to the Jew first and also to the Greek. So begin the synagogues, right? Until the time when Christians were no longer allowed entrance to make known their message. So the law, parentheses, Torah, and the traditions of the elders were also factors that bound most of the people together. The law and the traditions were factors that bound the people together. Of central importance were those regulations that involve circumcision and Sabbath keeping. The Jews lived by the laws and believed God had given to them not only the 613 commandments found in the Pentateuch, that's the first 5 books of Moses, but also the subsidiary regulations that surrounded them, which numbered in the thousands. Finally, the temple, the priesthood, and the festivals also gave the Jews a sense of identity. The temple, the priesthood, and the festivals gave them a sense of identity. The temple was a magnificent structure, and the Jews took great pride in it. See Mark 13:1. Even the Romans respected Jewish commitment to the temple and its worship. At times, they helped enforce the regulations, prohibiting Gentiles from desecrating it and protecting the Jews who entered. To speak against the temple was to speak against God, as far as the Jews were concerned. All of this helps explain why Jesus' cleansing of the temple so angered his countrymen. He said, "Destroy this temple," referring to himself, "and I will raise it up again in 3 days." Raise it again in 3 days. John 2:19 is the reference for that. Jesus was claiming nothing less than that he would prove to be the true temple, where the will of God was done. God's will was not confined to some physical structure, however magnificent, where vulgar commerce was taking place. Vulgar commerce. Some scholars have suggested that it was Jesus's anti-temple attitude that ultimately led to his rejection by the Jews and his crucifixion. Religious groups. Now, the next section here is titled Religious Groups, and it's going to teach about the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Essenes, the Zealots, and that's it. But that's going to be a whole nother couple of pages. I'm just going to start reading about the Pharisees, and it's going to come to an end mid-Pharisees. So, Pharisees. The best known of the religious groups of Jesus's day were the Pharisees. Although they were a relatively small group, probably numbering about 6,000, they were extremely influential. Their point of view on many issues could be considered typical of a majority of Jews at that time. The name Pharisee probably derives from an Aramaic word meaning separate. Hence, the Pharisees were the separated ones. They came into being sometime before the New Testament era. According to Josephus, they gained prominence during the reigns of John Hyrcanus I, parentheses, that would, his reign would have been 135 or 134 BC to 104 BC. That's when the Pharisees would have come into prominence during his reign. And also the reign of Alexandra, parentheses, 76 to 67 BC. By Jesus' time, there were two different schools of Pharisaic thought: the followers of Hillel on the one hand, and the followers of Shammai. Hillel had I'm sorry, I just said that so weird. I got a stupid grin on my face. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about The Chosen. Hillel and the houses of Hillel and Shammai are featured in The Chosen, and so sorry for the corny grin. I'm a bit of a fangirl. So back to the book. The followers of Hillel and the followers of Shammai. Hillel had revolutionized rabbinic thought with a new method of exegesis that allowed for a more liberalized interpretation of the law. Gamaliel, the first, Hillel's son and teacher of the Apostle Paul, check out Acts 22, verse 3, was the leader of the Pharisees from AD 25 to 40. That's probably when he was teaching Paul, right? Put two and two together. After the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70, Johanan ben Zakkai, and that is the bottom of page 56. I will leave you thirsting for more to figure out what happened to Johanan ben Zakkai. Hopefully I'll log back on tonight or tomorrow to read page 57. Hope you enjoyed page 56. If you have any questions about what I'm reading, feel free to email me at bwordlit. That's bwordlit@gmail.com. Later. Bye. Shema. Shema, hello, Shema. Shema, Shema, Shema.